Hello! Okay, so I wanted to do another video on more butt stuff. Right. So in the previous tutorial we learned how to make your butt clap together. In this tutorial we're going to have a look at how to make it jiggle side to side. Okay, so basically there's two main ways of doing this, stood up or lying down on all fours. Yeah, so this way or this way, and there's two main ways of doing each of those, with your spine straight or hinging at the hips and bending. Okay, so we're going to start off with the standing version first. I'll show you what I mean. So first one is standing up straight. It's going to look like this. Hooray! Okay, and then hinging at the hips, bending over, look like this. Yeah, so from sideways on, like this. You see I'm hinged at the hips as opposed to stood up straight. Okay. Now, first of all, the two most important things for getting this movement right are, one, it's not to do with isolating any muscles in your butt. This one is all down to momentum. Your butt muscles have to be relaxed. It's actually all down to your hips, which brings me on to point number two. Because it's all down to your hips, it can really help to have a basic understanding of the anatomy of your hips. They're basically shaped like a bowl, and wouldn't you happen to know, I have a bowl handy. It's Jen's bowl. It's cute. So yeah, your hips are shaped like a bowl, okay? So those of you who've done a lot of classes with me before will be familiar with the exercises that I make you do, where you tilt your hips and you imagine you're tipping water forwards out of a bowl and backwards out of a bowl. For this movement we're going to need to rotate the hips, yeah? So for the standing movement we're going to rotate our hips as if we're doing this with our bowl, yeah? So you see how I'm just turning it. Twist, 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 twist. So it sounds mad, but it can help to actually get a bowl and do that movement and then mimic it on your hips and visualise a bowl. So on my hips it will be twist, 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 twist. Yeah? Now the important thing to notice is that my upper body isn't moving, or should be barely moving. Okay? Just the hips. Don't worry about your legs, as long as they're staying straight. You don't want to be skiing, bending into it. Yeah? Keep the legs straight but relaxed and just twist at the hips. So we're kind of thinking about pushing forwards with these hip bones. A good exercise to do is to find a piece of wall, stand pretty nice and close to it, and then rotate your hips, thinking about that rotating motion that I was doing with the bowl, and see if you can get where your hip bones are to touch the wall or come closer to the wall. So twist, twist, twist. So you'll hear from my voice, it's actually quite a concerted effort, yeah, to twist this far. Now we won't necessarily have to do this much of a pronounced twist when we do our butt jiggles. Why am I still doing them? But that really helps to get those muscles activated, the muscles that we're looking at down here, to cause that twist motion with the hips. So what we also don't want is, we don't want the upper body to do this, yeah? Because that takes it away from being a butt jiggle and turns it into what I refer to as a toddler temper tantrum, okay? A lot of people find, to begin with, the only way that they can get their butt to shake is by doing this with their upper body as well. Please don't get into that habit, because it's really hard to get out of once you've started it. I speak from experience. What you can do to help yourself not do that is either hold onto a pole or do them with your hands pressed against a wall, yeah? And really think about keeping those shoulders nice and still, keeping your upper body completely still. It's a really good idea to do them in the mirror. So, with regards to your feet, go with wherever's comfortable for you. Everyone has a different size butt, a different consistency butt, a different type of butt. So I don't know exactly where it's going to be best for you to have your feet apart according to your bum. But I wouldn't recommend any closer together than hip distance, and I wouldn't recommend any further apart than how wide you'd be for, say, a sumo squat. So just slightly further apart than hip distance. But play around with it, see which one sort of helps the jiggle in your butt the most. So if we take that rotating motion, I'm going to do it sideways on for you. I'm going to hold onto the pole to make sure I'm not using my upper body as well. And I'm going to just do that twist, 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 twist. And I can feel it really working these muscles here in my lower core and sort of spreading a little bit to my, my obliques as well. I'm just going to speed it up and make it more of a loose motion instead of a concerted push. Yeah, so I can feel my thighs starting to move. That's good. Your thighs are attached to your butt. They're going to move. And then as I get more into it and speed it up, then my butt starts to go as well. Okay? Now then, for the bending over version, it looks like, oh, I'm just doing the same thing but bending over, right? That's where you're wrong, because when you're stood up, your hips are like this, yeah? Me standing, my hip bob. As soon as you bend, they're now facing this way, yeah? So if we still want that movement of push, 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 push forwards in front of me, it's going to go from being a twist, 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 as I tilt, to push, 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 push. So you see how the ball's moving in a different way now. Instead of twisting, once we've tilted, it starts pushing instead, yeah? So what this means to my hips is that instead of twisting like this, they're going to start coming up towards my rib cage, yeah? Don't worry about what my legs are doing whilst I'm showing you this stood up, because it's different when you bent over, but I just want to show you pulling the hip up towards the lower rib cage using the obliques. So when you're bent over, you should see that if you watch my hip in comparison to where my rib is, you should see that it's pulling up, yeah? Up, up, push, 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 push. So a good exercise to do for this is, again, for those of you who've done boxes and bowls with me before, if you stand feet roughly hip distance apart, relax your knees, bring your hands onto your hips as if you're resting them on like a surface either side of you. And you want to try and make your hands go like this, yeah? Up, down, up, down. To do that, you're going to push with one hip upwards and contract that oblique to squeeze the hip up towards your rib cage. That causes this leg to lengthen and straighten out. So it's not that I'm making my hips move with my legs, my hips are kind of causing my legs to change what they're doing. Again, like I said, when you're bent over, your legs will be straight anyway, so don't worry too much. But for this exercise, slightly bent, crunch the hip up towards the rib cage, back to the other side. And your hips should just be going up and down, yeah? We don't want them to be going side to side, just up and down. Once you're comfortable with that and you felt it start to work a similar muscle group to when you were twisting them, but not quite the same one, then see if you can transfer it to being bent over. Again, to make sure you don't end up doing like a booby shoulder wiggle as well, you can always hold onto a pole to make sure that you're keeping your arms and your upper body still. I find I like to do this one with my legs a little bit further apart, but again, like I said, just do whatever feels good to you. So you bend over, and then you do that push, 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 push. Yeah. So you're thinking like a happy dog wagging its tail, but not its upper body. Back half the dog is happy, front half the dog is really serious. So, once you've mastered both of those, you can then look at bringing them together. Now this is really difficult because you're going from one plane of movement to another. The trusty bowl. We're going from this plane of movement, where the bowl is lateral, to this plane of movement, where the bowl is vertical. So it's like an x-axis and a y-axis, yeah? We start off moving on the x-axis, we tilt, 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 until we're moving on that axis. And there we go, back. Okay? So this requires some concentration. I'll demo it for you first. So we start off standing, and then we bend, and come up again. Okay, it's a lot harder than it looks. Persevere with it. The only way to get that is just practice, 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 practice. If you have to start off doing it really slowly, so there's no jiggle because you've not got the speed for momentum, that's fine. Just practice getting your body used to starting off twisting at the hips and then bending forwards. And now I can feel I'm starting to push more with the hips until I'm hinged completely over. And now I'm pushing, coming back up. Can feel I'm starting to go back to twisting, and I'm back to twisting the hips. Okay? Give it a try. It's a lot of fun once you can do it. I guarantee you will find that you'll be stood in queue for something and you'll start doing this with your butt, as long as you don't also then start bending over and then grabbing your ankles. That's fine. If you do that, then please make sure you ask everyone for a tip. We're going to move on to next, doing this lying down. So like I said right at the start, there's two ways for this, one with the spine straight and one hinged at the hips. And we now know the difference between the hip movement for the, you want to say the erect spine, but I can't say erect without laughing. But the erect spine and the movement of the hips with the hinge at the hips, okay? So I'm going to show you what it's going to look like on the floor. You have two options. Apologies that it's cutting my legs off slightly. I've not got room to do anything about that, but they're not doing anything special, so don't worry about it. You won't be looking at the butt. Yeah. So, on the floor, your butt is going to be doing this. Hooray! Jiggling all of its own accord. When you then bend at the hips to here, it's going to be jiggling all of its own accord. But up here, surprisingly difficult to do whilst talking, by the way, especially when you can't see your own butt. So, when we do it lying on the floor, resist the temptation to do that thing that everyone does when they're lying in bed, well, that a lot of people do when they're lying in bed, which is kind of moving their hips side to side, like this, so my hips are kind of going like that against the floor. Remember that we're doing that tilting motion, and remember that now that the position of your body has changed, when I'm lying down, my hips are like this, yeah? So to maintain that rotating that we did when we were stood up with the spine erect, I can do it like an adult, then you're gonna twist like this, not like this, yeah? So, this is easiest to do on your forearms to begin with. And just like when we did those little exercises against the wall, of twisting until we feel the hip bone touch the wall, you can actually raise yourself up slightly. So my hips are a little bit off the floor now. I'm kind of in a really bloody lazy plank. And just rotate, trying to touch the floor with your hips whilst keeping your upper body still. And then as you speed it up and relax the butt cheeks, you can get a good jiggle going there. If that's feeling okay, try doing it with your hips already on the floor. For some reason, it just mentally feels a lot more difficult with your hips already on the floor. I don't know why. Might just be me, who knows. So again, you're just rotating the hips to jiggle the butt. Trying not to move your upper body as well. I think I was quite a bit there. Fatigue setting in with these muscles, no joke, you'll see what I mean. Full version push back. Same as when we bend at the hips when we are upright. Our hips have changed position, but unlike when we're standing and come forwards, we have now gone from lying down, didn't think that through, to this position. So although the bowl hasn't changed planes, we're now changing the direction that we're pushing in. Okay? I hope this is making sense. So, whereas when we're stood up, if you see my hands are pushing forwards, forwards, forwards whilst I'm twisting the bowl, and then I bend over while stood up, and I'm still pushing in the same direction. When we're lying down, you see my hands are pushing towards the floor. When I then come up and push my bum back, my hips are still here, but this time I'm pushing in the same direction still, yeah? Sorry, I'm pushing in a different direction. So you've gone from pushing towards the floor pushing towards the wall, okay? If this bit is confusing the hell out of you, don't worry too much about it. It's more just a tool to help you understand why it's so difficult to do, even though you'd think if you can do this one, then you'd be able to do all of these because it's the same movement, right? I'm just trying to illustrate how it's sort of a very different movement for, well, a subtly different movement for each one, and that you need to train your brain to do each movement using the muscles required for that movement to make it work. So we've been lying down on the floor. We're going to push back and we're going to shake it right here. I feel like my butt jiggle is getting less and less as we go. This is not the first time I filmed this either, so apologies if my butt is slowly jiggling less. I'm really feeling it in my core. If you want a core workout, this is it. So, same as when we were bent over before, I'm pulling my ribs up towards my lower, pulling my hip up towards my lower rib cage, yeah? Pull, 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 pull. Or if you so wish, pushing my butt cheeks back. Bum, 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 bum. Whichever one you prefer. Yeah? Now I can move backwards and forwards in this position. And as long as I keep my hips in that bowl position here, just moving backwards and forwards and shaking. Same as with the standing one. Linking the two together is a real head fuck. I find it harder going down than I do coming back up again. But with practice, then eventually you'll get it. It is really difficult though. You'll probably find you can do it lying down, and then your bum will stop as you get midway, and then you can do it again when you're all the way up. But keep practicing. I'll demo it for you, I'll try to anyway at this point. For those of you who are in the most recent Filth Army floor work class, we did this in it. So, allow me to just adjust my shorts. So, for this one, moving between the two, you can start off on your forearms if you want, and then push onto your hands, and then push backwards. Or you can just start off in like a cobra position, completely up to you. Whichever feels easiest, whichever feels most natural. So we're going to start off, I'm trying to think which way I do it now. I'm going to start off rotating the hips into the floor, and then pushing it back, and then back to rotating. Okay? Play around with where your hands are. The closer your hands are to your body, testing my back flexibility here, then the more of a push back you'll be able to get. Okay, so hopefully that all makes sense. The main things I want you to take away from this are, one, it's nothing to do with muscle engagement in your butt. It's to do with relaxing your butt as much as you can, and letting the fat on your butt jiggle. Let it free, let it loose, let it fly. If you're engaging everything, it's just going to move solidly, okay? Allow it to jiggle around. Have fun with it. And two, the bowl thing. It's not coming from your butt, the movement. It's not coming from your legs. It's coming from your hips. Your hips shaped like a bowl. When we're doing it stood up, or we're doing both at the same time, then we're doing this in the bowl and this in the hips. This is optimistic. Bending over, it's a different movement for the hips. That's really hard to do both at the same time, but you get what I mean. And again, lying down, this time the bowl is in the same position, but the movement changes direction. Okay? Hopefully I've not just confused you even more with all that. So have fun jiggling your butts. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it.